Yo, what it do? It's your boy, Young the Poet. And today I am here with Mr. Miroslav Petrovic. He is definitely one who does TEDx speaking. He's a facilitator, has worked with more than 5,000 people across the world and supporting them in their messages to get their messages out to the world. So today we are actually going to get a piece of that information, get a piece of that action, and let some of our people understand how this process works. Thank you so much, Miroslav, for actually being a part of YTP Entertainment. I greatly appreciate you being here as a guest. Please let the people what you got going on.
Thank you, Yellow. Beautiful to be here. I don't know. Where do you want me to start? This could be like, where do we go with
it? whatever the newest things or the most important things that you got going on, let us know what we can do to support you. Let us know, what it is.
Yeah, all right. Well, one of the things I got going on is my book just launched the audiobook version. So that's a bit exciting. It's good to have it out there communicating in a whole new way. And with Spotify and things like that, people can just listen to it on the go now. So if you've got a Spotify membership, like you can listen to it along with your favorite music. So that was pretty cool. That was a few years in the back burner. I'm just committing to being like, all right, I'm going to push this thing through, like between the book and the audiobook getting out. So that was a bit exciting. Other than that, a lot of my trainings are here in person in Australia, so I can tell you guys about them. But unless you're going to fly over, it's a bit it's a bit out of your way.
It's all good. Because one of the things that we're always happy about is when we get to hear somebody else's story, we learn about the person as well as learn some of the things that they've gone through. And it helps other people that may be struggling with some of the same issues to figure out different ways that they can actually get past or overcome any type of bad situations that they may have, and also some ideas on some positive topics, that they may be already doing. Somebody else out there may be a TEDx speaker or have actually talked to a bunch of people across the world, but they may feel like there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing, and then they hear your story and they like, that's one thing I can implement in my talks. So we look to inspire, definitely look to inspire no matter what.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes, indeed. So one of the things that I was looking at is a TEDx speaker. How did you get into TEDx?
God, it was probably a dream for a long time. And how can I say this? I think sometimes when we dream, we don't really take action. And I was probably one of those for a long time. I dreamed about doing it. I was like, I know this is going to happen, but I never actually I did anything about it. And then eventually I had the support of an organization, agency that just specialized in landing people TED Talks. So they went through, they helped me write up the proposal, they helped me with the application process, and I basically had to go and deliver the talk. So that worked out really well for me, as my skill sets are definitely speaking and not, some of the admin process that can go into it. And like anything, when someone's specialized in like the process of landing a TED Talk, that's very different than actually doing the TED Talk. Like they're two very different skill sets.
Yes, it is. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. When you're actually out there, like take for example me, when I'm writing my poetry, that's one skill set. But to actually get on stage and perform that poem is a whole nother skill set. It even makes you feel like you're in a whole different environment to do it that way, because now I'm in front of a bunch of people and I'm talking to a bunch of people while I'm performing. So it's a different, it's a different aspect. It's a different, avenue. So I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. So did being in Tech Talk and teacher and facilitator that allow you to travel across the world?
It definitely helps. I find a TED Talk is a bit like writing a book, but I would say it takes a lot less time. And it definitely opens doorways. Like people are like, okay, do you have something to say, since people want you on the TED Talk stage? And I find sometimes people don't even watch the talk. They just see it like a badge. It's like, okay, you've done something, It's kind of like when you've written a book. But
Mhm.
writing a book takes a lot more time. It's a lot more expensive. There's a lot more moving parts. When you write the book, you notice you've only done like half the work. Like actually getting it out there and launching it is the second half. And with TED, you don't have to worry about any of that. Like when you get the TED talk out there, like they do a lot of the, it's on their platform, so it's kind of like it's credible. You do still have to get it out, share it with your friends and family and get it moving. I'm sure in the early days that wasn't even as necessary when there was far less talks,
Yeah.
everything that came out that people were watching. Even on YouTube, I remember I had a YouTube video. YouTube started around the time I was in uni. One of my first YouTube videos had like thousands of views and it was rubbish. It didn't even have
Wow.
sound on it. It was just me playing with a camera. And I look back on that, I'm like, wow, that's where we came from. And now, when you're starting a YouTube channel, you're not going to get any views unless you promote the thing yourself.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, that is so true. It's hard to forget those early YouTube days. Like, oh my goodness, like sometimes you really didn't know what type of content you wanted to put out, or maybe you just came up with some impromptu or sporadic idea and you throw it out there, and you'd be surprised at how many people are actually watching that. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe people are actually watching this.
You come back to it and you're like, wow, this thing has, thousands of views.
Yes. The crazy part is nowadays, it's like if it's not dramatic or if it's not something crazy going on, people won't even watch it. And if it's more than like 2 or 3 minutes, then people are not really going to watch it. That's crazy. It
Yeah,
is.
it's a very changing world, isn't it? And I mean, you look
Yeah.
at something like Netflix. I don't know what topic we're going on here, but who cares? Um, Part of me is like I'm a bit burnt out by the quick, fast. Here's the next thing. Here's more drama. Here's the next thing to keep you emotional. A part of me is just like I miss quality content. Like I miss going to cinema and actually being fully enthralled by the film I'm watching, as opposed to a lot of the stuff on Netflix. I'm like, it doesn't even sustain my attention. I know it's supposed to, but I
Yes.
find myself looking around, wanting to talk to someone, picking up my phone. Whereas, I don't know if it's us that's changed or the media we're consuming, and it's probably a bit of both.
I believe it's a bit of both. I believe it's an what do you say, the revolving door type of thing. Like we're doing some changing and they're doing some changing, and it's just constantly going this nonstop revolving door.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the film Oppenheimer. I just watched that a few days ago. And when I started watching it, I was like, I'm fully in this film. Like I'm not thinking about anything else. Like that's how good it is.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
miss like I really miss and I admire work like that, regardless of what it is, whether it's a poet on stage, whether I'm reading a book. I love that full, immersion in it. Like nothing else exists while I'm consuming it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm totally engaged with that, those types of movies or live performances, things of that nature. I'm totally engaged with those types of things because it takes a lot of creativity to actually stand there live and either sing, dance, play an instrument. Those types of things are truly engaging, especially people who like doing poetry, and some people who just do like even the TEDx talks. Like these things, you have to actually be creative. You have to actually have a skill set that you're willing to perform in front of a bunch of people. And those things are most engaging to me. I like that type of stuff.
Mm.
Definitely.
What's been some of your like most memorable poetry deliveries on stage?
Ooh, Claude, have mercy. We just talked about this one. I was in Stone Mountain, Georgia, performing at Club Pisces. When I performed at Club Pisces, I performed my poem called "On Bended Knee." Now, "On Bended Knee" is actually a poem for people in relationships who are looking to get married. So I had a young lady come up on the stage. She came up on the stage and I performed my poem to her. And at the end of the poem, I said, "Will you be my wife?" I got down on one knee and said, "Will you be my wife?" And she bursted out in tears. The people in the VIP section bursted out in tears. A lot of the ladies in the audience bursted out in tears, but I got a standing ovation. And that was one of the most memorable moments because Rick James siblings were there. Kool and the Gang was there. The Gap Band was there. Mary was there. Johnny Gill was there. All those people were there, and I ended up sitting in the VIP section with them. And Mary, they had tears in their eyes. Rick James' sister had tears in her eyes, and it was crazy because
Wow.
everybody felt that poem as I was reciting it. They felt it.
Oh, I'm feeling it. You just retelling the story. I'm like goosebumps everywhere. Like there's so much emotion. It's beautiful, man.
Yes, oh my goodness. It's a very emotional poem. And I love that poem. I still have that poem actually on my network. So I can actually go to that poem whenever I want to. I love it. I do.
And
I
what
love
did she say? Did she say yes?
it. She actually did say yes, and then I mean it was just a performance, but she actually did
Yeah.
say yes. She did like this coming up mouth, and she was like, and then she just started bursting out in tears. It was like that part was a shocker to her. Like she wasn't expecting that part at all. It was just so crazy. Like maybe one of those relationships where people have been together and then the husband just surprises her with some outrageous type of event that goes on, and then he comes in the middle of the event and proposes to her. It was kind of like that.
Mm. Is it recorded by any chance? Is it possible to view online?
It's actually not recorded. It was actually performed inside of a club. Inside of a club
Something
where people are
magical about
normally
that as
going to
well.
dance. Yeah. So some
People
I
on
don't
stage
know.
with
I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe some people did record it, but I didn't get a chance to record because I was actually the one on stage. I wish I had. That would have been awesome. Oh my goodness. I would have loved to show that standing ovation to other people. It was fun. It was a lot of fun though. I tell you. And then I got to see Charlie Wilson again. I met him once when I was 7 years old. And when I performed that poem, I was in my like mid 20s. And he was like just blown away. He was like, man, how did how did you do that? How did you come up with that concept for that poem? And I explained that to him. And when I explained it to him, I asked him, I said, do you remember a little boy who you told your drummer because he was so intrigued by drums to play, to help him learn him, teach him how to play the drums? And he was like, yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, back in Chicago on 75th in Indiana. He was like, yes, I do remember that. He said, man, I spent so much time with that little boy. He just took me to a whole nother world. I didn't even let anybody interrupt us or anything. I said, exactly. I remember that. And he was like, you remember that? I was like, yeah, I'm that little boy. He was like,
Oh
wow.
wow.
Are you serious? I was like, yes, that was me. How can I remember such details if it wasn't me? He was tripping
Wow,
out.
man.
It was fun, man. It was a fun time. I blew his mind on that
Yeah, I love it. Hey, how quickly life.
one. So speaking of such, what was one of your most successful TED Talks?
Well, I've only done the one TED talk, and it was good. I wouldn't say that was my most successful event. Um, man, it's kind of funny. Like I don't even think of this in terms of success, but I think like some of my most memorable moments on stage,
Mhm.
like the capacity to be able to get up and speak in my mother's funeral, that
Okay.
was probably one of the most touching experiences.
Mhm.
And like to know exactly what I wanted to say. Like the
Right.
words were inside me just leading up to that moment. It's like, okay, this is really what wants to be said. There was a big honoring of her life.
Mhm.
And it sounds simple, but even in the TED talk, the most memorable moment for people is when I share this story about my mother. So
Mhm.
it's interesting. It's like both these moments that are dear to me were to do with her, which I've never really considered before. So it's a good question.
Okay.
Um, but another like on a different note, I remember I
Mhm.
was at this one event and I was the last speaker of the 3 day event. So by the time it got to me, like, people were pretty tired.
Mhm.
They were exhausted. Like, a quarter of the room had gone home. So you had these like empty chairs everywhere. And I
Yes.
started speaking, like no one was even listening. Like they were listening, But people were on their phones. They were kind of like, we stayed this long, we may as well just sit through this last speaker. And I
All
was like,
right.
I can't speak unless there's people listening, guys. I'm like, may as well just put up a YouTube film. And while I'm talking, I'm like, how do I go about creating connection here?
Mhm.
And what came up for me, and this was like early in my speaking career. I was pretty reserved. I grew up being like the shy, quiet kid in school. Most of my year level was like, they didn't really know whether I talk or not. So
Yeah.
very, very. And in this moment, I'm doing this talk. People aren't really listening. And then I just have this vision inside my head. It was like, you have to get on the chairs and you have to keep speaking. And
Mhm.
then as I went to get up on the chair, it's like, now you're going to walk through the audience, walking around on the chairs while you're speaking. And as
Uh,
I started doing this, everyone dropped their phones. Everyone just started paying full attention. And I was like, okay, now we can do something. Like now that we have the attention, let's actually deliver the talk. So
yes.
yeah, for me, the time was really scary, but it was also like, okay, what are you willing to do to get this message to be heard? And it's like, regardless of how good the message is, if we're not willing to put ourselves on the line with the delivery, it's like the
Yes.
message is gonna fall on flat ears. And I like
Ye-
it. It's similar to this piece you said before. It's like you can write the poem, but unless you can bring through the delivery, it's like most people
Yes.
won't even hear it.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. I kind of felt that way when I did a performance for Ford Motors. I was actually at the plant and they was having this event for their employees. I think it was like giving their employees some awards or recognition or something like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to reach these people? Because like the people seem to be um, looking for something that was super exciting, a lot of fun, and things of that nature. So I wanted to make sure that my poem would be engaging, whether they were having fun or not. But I just wanted to get that deliverance to where they would at least be engaged. And when I first started out, I started out, speaking pretty slow. And then I started picking up the pace as I noticed that the people seemed to be intrigued by what was being said. And because I was pretty nervous, that time, because that was like early part of my career of speaking in the public with some of the people in different events. It was crazy, but the people actually liked it. They threw their hands up. The DJ started playing music after I got finished, and I was like, oh my goodness, I felt a sense of relief because I didn't think that they were really paying attention.
Love this.
But it was fun though. It was fun. So you were talking about your message of offbeat of on the offbeaten path. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I guess my journey into speaking, like especially because I used to stutter a lot as a child. I was pretty repressed with my voice, like not confident, the opposite of confident. And when I got into speaking, I found I didn't know I was really good at this, but people kept saying this to me, like mentors and people that weren't even mentors. They would just hear me, and people that I would like look up to, and they'd be like, "You're really good at this." I remember the main thing I used to get in the early days was like, "Keep doing this and you got to smile." Like I was doing it and I was doing it well and I was scared. So because of that, I wasn't smiling much. And the off-beaten path for me was really like, what happens if I let go of memorization? What happens if I let go of all these safety mechanisms and just trust in the connection between the audience and I? Now, yes, I still prepare. Yes, there's still an arc. Yes, there's still specific points and messages and content I want to deliver. But
Mhm.
what the primary focus is the connection between us. Just like if you're going and having a drink with a friend, you might have stuff you want to talk about, but you're not memorizing every single bit. You're allowing that to be natural and organic and more engaging.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that became my focus. And since then, that's just gone into the obvious things. Like, yes, you need something to say. Yes, your body language matters. And then it's like, okay, the energetics matter. The space
Mhm.
between us matters. Whether a speaker is looking directly at an audience and making eye contact with different people matters. It matters a lot.
Yes, it
Uh,
does.
when they're silent, are they thinking about something? Or are they purely silent and in connection with the audience? This matters. Like, and the audience can feel it even if they don't know it. So I just
Yeah.
got really fascinated by these deeper dynamics of how do we create real connection even when we're in front of a room of people.
Yes, yes, that's totally understandable, and it's also commendable that you look at all of the different aspects of speaking because a lot of people don't know the dynamics and they don't understand what it takes to actually be a successful speaker. And I don't mean like success in the way that you become this huge millionaire and millions of people all over the world want to hear you or see you. I'm talking about that audience that you're currently in front of at that time for that moment, being engaging in everything that you're talking about from the beginning of the time that you start speaking up until the end of the time that you stop speaking.
Mm,
And they can show that they appreciate everything that you just talked about. That right there shows that you've done everything that you were supposed to do as a speaker to keep these people's interest, to pique their interest, and to have sometimes them asking questions internally that they could possibly not ask you right then and there. So those
mm,
things right there make a huge, huge difference. I love it.
mm.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your like one or two secrets to engaging when you're speaking or delivering your work?
My main thing for me is to make sure that I have the proper tone of voice, because I got kind of a deep voice when I'm talking. So I want to make sure that I'm speaking properly or enunciating my words properly, whether people can actually understand the things that I'm saying. And then it's my body language. I want to perform what I'm actually talking about. So my body language needs to match what I'm talking about because I'm
Mm,
I'm just that type of person. Like if I'm talking about something sad, my body language needs to project that sad. If I'm talking about something upbeat, happy, joyful, then my body language, my energy, everything needs to protrude just that. So
mm,
those are key things for me anytime I'm out there speaking. I'm definitely keeping eye contact with my audience. I want them to personally feel like I'm talking to each person individually. I don't care how many people it is.
mm. Yeah, love it. And hang on, you were just saying something. I was gonna ask you another question. Before the eye contact, oh my God. It was so alive in me, and then I just forgot it.
My body language.
Ah, yeah, yeah, body language. So I was curious, is this something you practice? Like when
Yeah,
you're, yeah,
yeah.
with the body language matching. Yeah, cool.
Yes, I actually practiced that at an early age. My eighth grade teacher had me actually going on stage speaking. We had to do a project in eighth grade to everybody had to come up with a poem. And I wrote to him the best poem. So he had actually scared the heck out of me because I was that shy student, didn't really talk much, had a lot of ideas and things that I thought about, but I just really didn't engage with the other students. And when I wrote that poem, I guess he's seen that as an opportunity to say, hey, this dude really got some stuff to talk about. So he put me on stage for the event that we had coming up in the auditorium, and I was scared to death to get on that stage and talk eighth grade to all of these literally about maybe 400 or 500 people, teachers, students, parents, relatives. There was just so many different people there, and our auditorium was huge. It was huge. So to see all those people standing in front of me, see all those people sitting in front of me while I'm standing up on this stage, it terrified me. But I focused on what I needed to say and what I had to say. And I actually, spit that poem. Once I got finished with it, I literally got a standing ovation. And
Mm,
that made me a little more scared because I didn't understand why were people standing and clapping and applauding for me. I knew that okay, maybe they were happy about what I said, but why stand? And I didn't understand what a standing ovation was until my teacher told me. He said, whoa, good job. You got a standing ovation. And I was like, what is a standing ovation? I said, he said, you see all these people out there standing up. That means that everything that you said was so powerful, they couldn't stay in their chairs. And I was like, okay.
You remember the poem still?
I don't even remember what it was. I don't, but I lost so much stuff over the years. A lot of my works have gotten stolen. I had won the contest for the top artist in the state of Illinois, and somebody stole those pictures too.
Oh
And some of
shit.
my pictures got posted in colleges. One of my pictures actually got posted in the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, Illinois. And I don't know if it's still there to this day because I've never been back.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I was gonna say it's amazing that this moment of this teacher and this poetry had kind of set the direction your life has gone into from then.
It was thank you. It was crazy and it had me scared to death, but it also taught me about what my purpose was versus my passion. I had a passion for speaking, a passion for writing poetry, and that passion is what ignited me to learn about what my purpose was. And I love it because it actually gave me the opportunity to learn that my purpose was to actually reach people and give people positive information that would help them to better themselves. And
Hmm.
even with my poetry, I done it even through more than 150 radio station interviews. I was able to do it. And even to this date on my podcast, I love it because people get to hear what I have to say and I get to hear what other people have to say. And we get to share these experiences in front of a wide audience. That's a beautiful
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah. Good on you. Good on you to kept following this all these years.
Yes, indeed. And I refuse to let it go. I refuse to let it go. So, on that note, tell me what are some of the best teachings that you do as far as being a teacher and a facilitator? What are some of your greatest moments in teaching?
I'll tell you one of the best things I think I teach is teaching people how to be themselves on stage. So
Mm,
quite often when it comes to the stage, we start with content and we think about the audience and what's the thing you want to deliver. And all of that has a place, but I don't know if it's the first place. Like
mhm,
if you can't ski, I'm not going to tell you where you need to go. Like the first thing we want to get you to do is just to be comfortable on those skis. And then we're
mhm,
going to look at destinations. Let's try a green run first. It's going to be fairly safe. Whereas I think with speaking, we're approaching it back to front, and it's because we live in a society that's driven by outcomes. And where I start is I say, forget about the content to start with. You're just going to stand here. You're not even going to talk. You're just going to stand and you're just going to see what happens inside your mind and your body when you face that fear. And you can't run away from it by being funny or smiling or all these things we usually do socially. It's like you just get to be with it and you get to feel your body land. It's like the heaviness of being fully present. When you master that as a first step for speaking and for any social environment, everything else becomes easier. You realize you never have to run or turn your back on the stage again. And jumping on stage is the same as, I don't know, someone asking, do you want to have a tea? Like it just becomes another part of your communication where it's like, yes, I know how to communicate with the tea and I also know how to get on stage if I need to.
yes,
It's preparation is always going to help and it's always going to be a better result. But just the way you don't need to prepare to have a tea, you don't need to prepare to get on stage.
yes.
That's how I live and how I teach my students to engage with the stage. And often what they say to me is, like a lot of people I work with are speakers, and sometimes they say to me, I used to speak and I used to hate it. Like I used to dread the moments of, like counting down the days of when I had to get on stage. And with you,
Mhm,
I've started looking forward to it. Like I'm the one in the company putting my hand up saying, can we get me on more stages? And I'm like, that's it. Like you
yes,
fall passionately in love with the process because you can reach so many people in less time with any message that you have. Um,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. That is awesome, man. That is awesome. So tell me about a time where you were having a difficult time teaching a student and you had to figure out a different way from your normal style of
Hmm.
teaching to get them up to par.
Oh, this is a good question.
Thank you.
So I remember this was one of the first times I've done this, and I've used it a lot since then. But I had one guy on stage, and I could feel that his body was like, for a lot of people to go on stage, they're suddenly hit with a lot more intensity. There's more energy, there's more nerves, everything's happening at once. And usually where people goes into their mind, it's like it's a bit of a panic response.
Mhm.
This particular guy, this is like a room of suits. Uh, he was a bit out of his environment. You could see he was like more junior in the team.
Mhm.
And as
Mhm.
he was standing there, I was like, "Look, this might be a bit strange, but I'm gonna put my hand on your shoulder. Is that
Okay.
okay?" He was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's okay." He was like, I could see by his facial expression, he's like, "It's a bit weird, but it's okay." And the moment I put my hand on his shoulder, he started to settle down.
Mhm.
I just got him to take a few breaths. And then I was just like, "What's changed for you?" He's like, "Yeah, I feel like I can just be more present with people." I'm like, "Exactly." Now, for me at that time to explain that to him with words and how to get there would have taken forever. But just following that impulse of touch, it can communicate so much more than what words can.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
I think
indeed.
it's
Oh my
like this is
goodness.
another thing. We know this in our like social lives. Like if a friend or your partner is going for a hard time, like that sense of extending an arm or a hug or something just feels natural.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's also one of the things that I learned in sales. In sales, they say be a little personable with people. So if someone likes something and you may not like it, you let them know, hey, that's nice. I like that too. So basically, using what's called the Me Too theory, they changed the name of it now, but back then they used to call it the Me Too theory. And you kind of like put your hand on the person's shoulder or put your hand on their arm, be like, or give them a pat on the arm, be like, hey, everything's gonna be all right. And the person feel a little more connected to you because you're being a little personable with them. And that personal doesn't take you out of professionalism because you're not doing anything crazy. You're just doing a simple touch. And it's just like that energy is just transferring from you to them, giving them that comfort and putting them in the comfort zone that they needed to be in order to be successful in their endeavors.
Mm,
So that was
yeah.
something that was talked about. That's what that
Yeah.
reminds me of what you just said.
Body just communicates so much that is beyond our cognitive awareness. Uh,
Mhm,
it's like we're and again in sales they talk about mirroring. If your
mhm,
body's mirroring the other person, you're going to be in more rapport. But then the
mhm,
fascinating thing to me is like when we're not trying to even hack that, like sometimes I'll go for a walk with my partner and I'll just notice our steps are completely in rapport with each other. And I'm like, wow, we're having, I know that we're having a really good conversation, but it's like
mhm.
our bodies are completely synced up to
Yes.
go into the depth of that conversation. And there's other times where she'll be like 4 steps in front of me and I'll be like, babe, slow down.
Yeah, that's how it is with me and my wife. And sometimes you get so engaged in that conversation that you kind of like start speeding up a little bit, or sometimes you'll slow down. It just depends on the type of conversation that you're having. Like if it's an energetic conversation, you kind of like speed up your walking, but unconsciously you're doing this. And it's so crazy. And if it's one of those calm, cool conversations, but it's still like very intriguing and engaging. Then you kind of like slow down, get a little relaxed in your walking, not even thinking about, okay, maybe we're walking together right now because we have a specific destination, a specific time to be there. You're not thinking about that part anymore. It's like all of that stuff leaves your mind.
Full immersion.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, that's cool though. So, what are some of your techniques that you use to help people embrace a deeper, more conscious way of communicating?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think breath is probably the most important one.
Mhm,
And like the recognition that with breath we come more into connection with ourselves,
Hmm.
which by like inference means we're going to be more in connection with other people.
Right.
And the other thing that breath lets us do is actually listen. Like listen to what's not being expressed, to what wants to be expressed,
Hmm.
to what desires might I have that I want to communicate, and
Hmm.
also what desires might the other person have that I might be able to, to help them with, to support them, to find of interest.
Hmm.
Whereas when with a conversation without breath, it just feels a bit like being in a hamster wheel. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're talking, we're doing this social thing, but we're not maybe connecting to the essence or the truth or the depth of what's possible in any given conversation. And this again for me is true on the stage and off the stage as well.
Okay. Awesome.
That's a really important one. And the second one I would say is, I mean, traditionally in speaking theory, you could call it clarity of message.
Hmm.
Uh, the last time I taught this, I stepped onto a stage and I had a big sword with me. Sorry, no, I didn't have a sword with me. And I go to them, right, we're going to do some declarations. Why are you here? And one of them looked at me, he's like, what do you mean, why are we here? Like, why are we here today in this workshop? And then I pulled the sword out of my bag and I put the sword on the stage. I was like, no, why are you here? And everyone was like, oh, okay, that's a different why are you here? It's like, it's that purpose piece you said. It's like, what are you
Yes.
really here for? What are you
Yeah.
putting your life on the line for? Like, how are you going to use this time that, God or the universe or whatever has given you?
Yeah.
And getting really clear on that to the point where you're not just speaking it, but it's like it's rumbling through your body so people can feel it, viscerally in themselves. That
Mhm.
I think is one of the most, it's not really like it is I can't even call that a technique. That's knowing who we are.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
layers of that. Sometimes people get up and they say the words, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling the goosebumps. But you're
Yes.
giving me 10% of what's inside you. I'm like, I want to feel the other 80%. And I'm just indicative of the rest of your audience that you're here to reach. It's like
Mm.
they want you to open up so that thing can shine through. Yeah, I
Yes.
can see you've had experiences with this as well.
I have. I have. So in this same conversation, has there ever been a time where you've caught yourself and you literally had to catch yourself using your techniques on your partner?
I don't know if I've ever caught myself, but my partner is very switched on and she's been in a lot of my trainings. And I think even if I tried to, she'd be like, babe, stop that.
Yes. I had to
It's
ask that
very
because
very like, she would be allergic to me even going into anything like that.
I had to ask that because I had to catch myself doing that with my wife one day. And she's like, are you really here or are you in a whole nother world right now? Are you like switching between worlds right now? I was like, no, why you say that? And then I thought about everything that I had just said, and I was kind of like walking through the steps that I would teach people as a relationship coach, because that's one of the other things that I do is talk to people and teach people about bringing more unity and having stronger relationships. And she was like, yeah, that's the reason why I asked that question is because of that. And I was like, okay, sorry. I was not doing that intentionally. That was just, me being my natural self.
I mean, it's a good sign. You're obviously teaching something that comes naturally to you.
Yes.
I mean,
True.
I had a time where I was speaking to this one lady and she said something to me and I was like, wow, that just worked really well. And I was like, I completely get it. And at the same time, I was like, that was a non-violent communication technique. Like, I
Mhm.
know the technique, but the way she applied it, I was like, I didn't feel like she was running a technique on me. If anything, I got the value of the technique. And I was like, oh, I can see why people teach this. It's so effective.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I got another one for you. When you mention a female, because they are masterminds at this, has there ever been a time where you had to use silent communication in order to get a point across?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, there's the typical one. If you've ever done sales training, they say the most important bit in the sales conversation. It's not the most important bit. I think building connection and serving people authentically is a lot more important. But
Yes.
especially first teaching and learning, it's like when you say the price, be silent and just
Hmm.
get comfortable with that silence. Don't break it. Don't go into excuses. Don't give them the next thing. Just be comfortable with silence.
Yeah.
That my first sales teacher teaching me that's always stuck as a valuable thing to know on both ends. Even when you're buying something, you're like, how much is that bed? And they tell you the price and they're silent. And it's like, oh, we're playing this game, are we?
Yes, indeed. But a lot of people don't realize how important having both the silent and verbal communication can be in a relationship. A lot of people don't realize that when you have that type of chemistry with your partner, that chemistry can truly build an extremely strong relationship that's unbreakable. And I mean unbreakable to a point to where someone can go out there and tell a huge lie on you, and your companions will, just for the sake of argument, be like, "Oh yeah, okay, well I'll talk to him about that when he gets home," and never says anything to you because you know better.
Mm.
So that silent communication, as well as that verbal communication, when you have both of those going in your relationship, you're definitely looking for the long term. You're not looking for that short term relationship. You're looking for the long term. And that's a blessing to anybody who can actually establish both types of communication in that relationship. Definitely.
Yeah. We were just at the bath house a few days ago, and there was numerous times in a connection where we'd be talking, then I'd be like, hey, let's just be silent for a bit. And just having that, it's so like, I don't know. It's just magical. Like it started becoming a joke. She's like, babe, you keep asking me to be silent, then you keep breaking to silence. But just like that sense of sinking into the body and feeling the body start speaking when you're silent, I just love it. It's like a different poetry emerges from that space.
Yes, yes, indeed. I agree with you on that. Because that's definitely a totally different vibe, and a lot of people don't understand the dynamics of silent communication. And that's one of the things that I tell the guys to read up on and to learn more about, because a lot of guys really don't get involved in silent communication. They're more verbal. And the silent communication that they give off, they don't even realize what it is that they're giving off. So I make sure that I teach them and explain to them, hey, learn more about silent communication, but don't get confused, because it can be confusing at times. It can be misleading at times because you really don't have the type of connection with the people because you don't understand it yet. And once you do get that understanding and you have a better relationship with the people that you're using silent communication with, then you start to see the wheels turn. You're like, oh, okay, now I get it. And that's what I make sure that they understand. But understand the person that you're doing the silent communication with. Don't just sit there and say, hey, I'm gonna try this out. And the first thing that comes to your mind is what you think is right or what you think is wrong. It
Mm.
doesn't work that way. You have to know your companion well enough to say, hey, okay, I can kind of like see what they're doing. And if you can see what they're doing, and then you go back and have a conversation about that, and they tell you that's exactly what it was, now the wheels start to turn and you finally understand what's really going on. It's a very important piece in any relationship, because it gives you the chance to have that moment of silence and still keep communication with your companion without saying a word.
Yeah. I often also say it's like a goldfish doesn't know it's in water. I feel
Mhm,
we're the same. Like we're always communicating and we often don't know what's happening underneath the words, which is the silent communication you speak of.
mhm.
So yeah, it's
So my
invaluable
wife,
to start noticing that.
my wife and I did this exercise, and I would challenge anybody to actually do this exercise, and it was actually really fun, really fun. So you take a deck of cards and you pick out certain cards that you want out of the deck. Let's say up to 5 cards. Pick 5 cards out of the deck and maybe count to 3, because that's what me and my wife do. We'll count to 3 and we'll lay those cards down. Do you know that we are so in sync that at a minimum, 4 out of 5 of those cards are the same? She may have a 3, I have a 3. She has an ace, I have an ace. She has a king, I have a king. Like 4 out of those 5 cards that me and my wife picked are the same. And I
It's hard
challenge,
to.
yeah, I challenge any couple to try that game. And we do it multiple times. We do it over and over again. And you'd be surprised at how much it builds on the psyche and the silent communication. It builds it, it makes your silent communication so strong. It's almost like you're talking to each other without even moving your mouth.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an exercise to help build the strength in your silent communication. So I tell you, it works. It works. Because there's been times when me and my wife would sit back, we're in the car, and we'll see something happen. And the other person didn't know that we both saw it. Like I didn't know she saw it, she didn't know I saw it. And we'll look at each other and just start smiling. And then one of us will say what we was thinking. It was like, oh my goodness, I was just thinking the same thing. Oh my goodness. And we both thinking the same thing. So it's crazy. It builds that communication up that strong. I kid you not.
I mean, I think it's so apparent when you're with someone. And I also notice like we are so linked as just as humans. There's so many times I'll be thinking about someone in the shower and I'll be like, oh, this person never got back to me about that email I sent. And then I'll get out of the shower and they sent that email while I was thinking about them. Now,
Wow.
it's kind of like on some level we were, like our wires were crossing. They were like, oh, I better get back to Miroslav's email at the same time I was thinking about them. And I'm like, it kind of feels like we're just both light globes kind of going off at the same time. Did they stir me to think about them? Did my thought remind them? It's like, who even knows how this stuff works on a deeper level?
That's true. That is so true. So, but tell me some techniques that you use to help people master their stage presence and their communication.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I covered, I feel is the most valuable. Getting present, getting comfortable in the body, breathing. From there, where I take it, it's a bit more custom. It's looking at and there's over 12 different strategies I go into in my work, but we all have different strategies to hide who we really are, where our identity gets to feel safe and show up in a certain way. And when I start working with people on a deeper level, you recognize that it's like, yes, there's a bit of magic in being in your identity, but that's like 2% of the magic. The rest
Yeah.
of the magic is all the stuff that's hidden underneath. And the moment you start letting that flow through you, you start radically creating more connection, more engagement, more trust, because you're being more of who you really are. And the opposite is like, when you're pretending to be someone, it's like it creates less trust because people can feel that on some level. Now, that process of going deeper is one of like undoing the mechanisms we've been utilizing to stay safe or to pretend to be a certain way, which gives us a feeling of safety, which isn't necessarily safe. People can be running imposter syndrome and feeling very unsafe internally, but it's like they've got a coping mechanism. Now,
Yes.
that comes through a lot of different things. It's the way we communicate. It's the details we go into and don't go into. It's our body language. It's what our eyes are doing, how we stand, how we move. All of these things, it's a bit like you can see the pattern playing out after a while. And I find myself just inviting people in their own pace to start leaning through the pattern and leaning into connection.
Okay. That's awesome. That is awesome, no doubt.
I would also say, just like we said before, with the goldfish, the silent communication, it's like often we don't see our own patterns because
Mm,
they're normal to us. You know, we're just used to them all the time. And it's only when someone's like, "Oh, try this pattern," and you're like, "Oh shit, that feels a bit scary." You know, it's like I've never done that before. I'm like, yeah, that's why the moment you do it, it's going to be radically different for your audience as well.
yes, indeed. That is so true. That is so true. Oh my goodness. I don't know how strongly I could emphasize how true that is. A lot of people do things, they don't realize what they're doing, but at the same time, they've been doing the same thing forever. And then when somebody points it out, like, oh, I never realized that before,
Mm,
or I've never done that
exactly.
before. But you just got finished doing it, but you just didn't realize that you were doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Powerful pieces, no doubt. All right. So give us something motivational to take us up out of here and let the people know where they can reach you.
Yeah, awesome. Keep being yourself. And for me, when you're truly following, when any of us are truly following the journey of being ourselves, there's an air of mystery about it. It's like to reach your full potential, you don't know who that person is. You just know the direction you're walking in. So it's like be open to the mystery, keep taking the courageous steps, and let life meet you halfway.
Yes, indeed.
That's
Indeed.
that's my sense of inspiration. As for connecting, Facebook, Instagram, the Miroslav Experience, Facebook, Miroslav Bardovic. So I just changed my surname, so I'll give you the new one to put on here as well.
Awesome.
What else can I let you know? As I said, the book's available on Amazon, Audible, all the main sites. My speaking institute is called Enlivened, ENLIVENED, speakinginstitutes.com. And my personal website is miroslavp.com, MIROSLAVP.com.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much, Mr. Miroslav. This has been great. It's
Thank you,
been
man.
fun. It has definitely been real. Thank you so much, man. And you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. I'm going to go ahead and get me some well needed sleep.
Awesome, bro.
Take
Take
care,
care,
my
Yellow.
friend.
Good meeting you as
So
well.
much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah.